Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we'll be going through the AFL fantasy trade targets for round 18 of the season. And I mean, obviously when the season comes to a close, you're going to get a little bit less rookie inflow as teams are starting to shore up their side for finals. Teams also have, some guys are debuting because they obviously deserve a chance. Some teams will play their guys for a game or two because they can get games into rookies in this season and not have to go through that, which can be a little bit painful for the team in terms of results next season. So they do it now when their season there isn't much downside risk of it happening. So we are probably going to get rookies for the next a little bit as teams are going to debut players. Especially the teams in the bottom 8 that basically are season over. But anyway, let's jump into them. As you would have seen from my Monday night video with my AFL fantasy team review for round 17, the trades I still have actually locked in. I haven't been bothered to reverse them because I showed them to you on camera anyway. So, guys, there isn't many rookies. That's the case. There's probably going to be a flow of 1 to 2 because we're probably only going to get 2 or 3 rookie debuts per week, and there's a good chance that a lot of them fail. But we actually have a couple. Tom McCarthy's still somehow here and still got the -17 break even, so he's going strong. Dua was injured, so he's going to come back, you'd expect, sometime soon. I don't know his exact let's go to AFL injuries and see if they have updated the list here. Let's go to this and just start scrolling all the way down to West Coast, updated on July 8th. And Gross, 30 disposals. Hopefully he comes back in. Dua is also available for selection after overcoming a hamstring injury. The fact of 1 week hammy, that usually doesn't happen. From memory, it's been a week, but let me just double check that for you guys. He has been out since round 16 and also round 17, so that's 2 weeks. So yep, possible that he also did it in the bye week as well. Not 100% sure about that, so I will let that sit there. I'm not going to be advertising him because he is 464k in its own right. The one that you want to pick up if you are picking up a rookie, some of us are sideways trading things around, it is George Stevens, 280k. A -14 break even. He's a guy that you could potentially go to, and I've actually looked at him as well, potentially in trades, but I've also just looked at going and sticking. And so if he does get, when do they play? That should be something I'll look up beforehand. They do play Saturday 4:15. That's a dangerous time slot to be looking for a sub, because guys like I was looking at Martin and also Goulden. If we look at them, Martin and Goulden play much later in the week, 7:35, and then on the Sunday as well for Goulds. So that should save him there. And I was looking at trading out Caldwell. He plays on the Saturday night, and also Green, and Green plays against the likes of plays against GWS. Against Geelong itself. So, having all said that, I'd be safe. Now I'd have to find a guy to trade out the likes of a George Stevens too, because I'd need to find that. Carlton can't do that. Let's actually just double check the rookies that I've got. You've got Boxall. He plays, it could just be straight up Boxall. It could be, probably would be Boxall in its own. Yeah, it would be Boxall. I wouldn't be trading out like anyone else here, I don't think, because they're all playing. So yeah, it would be Boxall, which would be totally fine. Anyway, let's go back to this. But yeah, George Stevens is someone, if you actually go back through my channel, you will find, I believe it's the 2023 draft he was in. I remember saying that they should be picking up with pick 16. Now, if we just do a quick, cheeky little 2023 draft here, let's just go through and show you which pick I was sort of considering where he should have gone versus where he actually went. So Sydney ended up pick 16. They picked Will Green, who's actually had a couple of really good weeks in the VFL and started to really develop. But if we go down, and you have to go down near the end, he was pick 58. Sydney had all the chances in the world. They picked up Paddy Snell, who's looking pretty good and a potential to debut as well. Just shouting that out. But Sydney also, I mean, they had so many chances in here, you would have expected them to potentially have jumped back into the draft as well. So the fact that he went all the way down here and picked 58, I mean, they've just got a really good player there, hasn't Geelong? And even though he's sort of not as quick as an inside mid, which probably would be typically the sort of physical attributes in terms of speed, pace, agility, etc., he's still a really good kick, and he just gets contested ball for fun. I mean, he ended up with 21 touches, 1 goal, 3 tackles, 3 marks, 3 free kicks, 4. Just a perfect stat line for a debut. And then the only other rookie basically to look at is the likes of Rowan Steele, 69 pointer off 19 touches is a pretty fair effort, I would say, for a debut. And so, yeah, he's another guy that you can potentially look at bringing in, I would say. There we go. That's better for you guys there. So, yeah, he's a guy that I would potentially be bringing in off his 69 from his 19 touches, 4 marks, 2 tackles game. Then we get to coach's choice, and this is probably going to be a very, very diverse coach's choice outside of the rookies. The rookie 2 is probably going to be very diverse. So you've got guys like George Stevens, who's the obvious rookie in. Guys like Errol Gordon could potentially be tagged, so I might even look at going, obviously this is the Caldwell move, but I might even be looking at going the likes of a Caldwell to a Martin, and then also moving as I said, a Boxall to a Stevens, generating even more cash, but also just in the end getting that pre-mill in, etc., getting the cash gen flowing again, etc. So Merritt at what's he at now? 938k, looks to be back in that midfield role. 87 break even, 938k. He could be a guy that you potentially look at. Like I could potentially, I don't know if I have enough. Let's just mock it up in terms of Caldwell, and then instead of say a Toby Green, you go like I could actually potentially do that. Let me actually just think about it. Yeah, I could actually do that. I'm pretty sure instead of getting a Errol Gordon, I get like a Zach Merritt in. I save 140k or whatever. Zach Merritt is a guy that is probably going to score pretty well for the remainder of the year, given that Caldwell is out for basically the remainder of the year, which means that, he could do really well. So that's something I'll probably consider, is just, do I go Zach Merritt or do I go an Errol Gordon? Errol has St Kilda, is done really well in his 3 games, but St Kilda could put just windy on him, and that would be that, which would suck. Colby McKercher, a guy that scored 124, averaging 108 last 3, 100 last 5. He's doing it all. I'll say this, he's not getting away for people that want to sort of, and I could actually, just thinking about it, 1700, I'm actually thinking, can I get away with trading in Colby McKercher and a Zach Merritt for potentially a Caldwell, and then also just a Zach Johnson or an Angus Clark or something of that regard there, and then suddenly I'm basically I've basically upgraded a rookie to an underpriced primo, etc., and can let those underpriced primos carry me up. Could potentially do that and look at that option as well. This almost turned into what I'm thinking type of for my team, but should straighten it back up, straighten the tangents back up towards you guys again. But yeah, I don't mind Colby McKercher. I just haven't found a sort of want in my team, but I think a lot of people could realistically look at him for a couple of mid prices, etc., and sort of solidify them into him, as he's only basically like a little upgrade on an Angus Sheldrick, and then basically a rookie that would get you there. Like an Angus Sheldrick, I think is like 660 maybe k or so. Let's actually just look at Sheldrick. I think a lot of people will be trading him out. He is a what are we looking at? 682k. So 682k, you need 151k to get to Colby McKercher. If we look at George Stevens, that would be a 431k rookie. There are plenty of 431k rookies that I think some people have. Johnson and Clark spring to mind. They're 487, 488k. So yeah, I would be looking at potentially moving those guys on, etc. there. McRae, understand this to a certain degree. Sydney may look to put row bottom on him. They probably will look at James Jordan to go to the likes of Wangani Malira, but they could do a bold play, which I think will happen anyway, or something of regard, because Campbell's done it back-to-back weeks, tagging somewhat to a degree in the forward half, but they could look at potentially going Campbell to a Wangani Malira, James Jordan to a Sinclair, and then also putting a row bottom to a McRae, which would be quite a lot of just almost, they're not necessarily full-on tags, but they're more sort of just a hard run-with role. But yeah, I could see McRae copping at a little bit of attention from Sydney. Butters is probably a VC or a captaincy option, so definitely be bringing him in. You want to be chasing these big scores. And then you've got Bontempelli playing the Crows, and then Lockie Whitfield, a lot of people bringing him in at 942k against Geelong. You could honestly wait a week. I know he's got Essendon and then Sydney. You could probably grab him for the last 4 weeks of the year for like 900k. Like realistically, if we just look at this, they say he's not going to play here. That's baloney. He'll be 900. He'll probably be 900k heading into the Sydney matchup. Probably a little bit less. He goes, or maybe even around about 900, 905k. He goes sort of 90, 85 in that game, and then you pick him up here for like 880k or something dumb like that. I think that that's a really good option, and that's something I'm really considering is when do I bring him in, because he's probably going to score well against Geelong, and then he's got Marvel and he's got the likes. And what did he score against the Sydney Swans? He scored a 107 against Sydney, so he's probably still going to score well against Sydney. Sydney may actually look at tagging Callahan rather than Whitfield, but yeah. He's definitely a guy that I'd be watching out for. If he's at a decent price for the Sydney game, you might want to just risk it. But I can also see a reasoning to hold out another week. But I think that he's playing Geelong. Did they play earlier on in the year? He went and at Geelong, he went 103. I think you can hold here. I don't think he's going to blow you out of the way. I don't think he's going to basically be, and worst case scenario, he's 942. He's like 940k next week because he goes 150. Some worst case scenario, although I don't expect that to happen. And so, yeah, I would be picking him up next week. Shanahan, the rookie, at 310k with a -7 break even. Don't think so. Rowan Steele would be the guy I'd be going for. Anyway, you get him for, what's that, 40k cheaper almost, 33k cheaper. So that's a massive discount, in my opinion. And that would enable you to get other players in. Ashton Moyer is probably just a guy that's going to get games for the rest of the year. He scored a 49, so he's probably going to be the rookie to pick up next week. If we look at it, a 29 gets him up 14k. We're looking at him probably scoring 20 more than that, which probably gets him to 265k, and would see him probably have a 5 or so break even. So you could grab him up then, and yeah, he'd be a good forward option there. Martin, etc. Wangani Malira. Martin's done pretty well. 599k though. I wouldn't be grabbing him up now though, because I just think he's just basically a mid-pricer that you're trying to get cash generation almost out of, because he's not scoring high-end scores. But he can get really close. I guess he could get really close for being a 600k guy, but I just wouldn't say so. Then Max Hall's been on fire. Sydney could even put some attention to him. But yeah, he's had 2 games where he's just gone absolute nuts in with an 88 and a 124, which has basically meant that he's now averaging 62 for the year, has a 10 break even, and he's probably going to find his way into the mid 600k range. If you just look at this, with 60s, he goes up a further, 77k, 93k in 3 weeks from mid 60s. So he could easily hit 700k by the end of the year. Wouldn't be touching him. And then you've got Rowan Marshall, basically one of the top prices for a ruck this year, and Brodie Grundy just continues to do Brodie Grundy things. He's probably going to run it close to 1.2 million. He does have the St Kilda matchup, which is a lone ruck, which is a good thing, so he should do really well there. They haven't played St Kilda, I don't think, and last time, I don't remember what happened last time against St Kilda, but yeah, he averages 105 against St Kilda in general. So yeah, should do pretty well there. And then the other guy you could potentially consider is the likes of Max Holmes, who did go 122 against Richmond. And he's probably at about the lowest that he'll go down to in price, I would say. I mean, he even went up from last week after a 122. So yeah, he's a guy that I would consider potentially in the next week or two, but he could have Bedford this week, which could slow him down, and then next week we pick him up against St Kilda could be the plan, I would say. But then again, he might cop Windy the week after, so you might have to wait until round 20 against North to pick him up when he would be at his best. If we are looking at the outs, Caldwell, obvious out because he's injured. Ned Long has really started to slow down and just become an 80s sort of player. Not getting as many tackles probably doesn't help, alongside Tom Mitchell being back has probably taken 5 or 6 touches away. And that means that 5 or 6 touches there is 10 points in its own right. And that's the difference between him and a couple tackles getting between that sort of 95-100 score and him getting 80s, which just you can't have in your team at this point in the year, especially for his price of $870k. Upgrade him. Guys like Kayla Sarong could also be upgraded. Has Hawthorn 152 break even. Sucks because, yeah, he basically still can't get through a tag at 24 years old. Maybe one of the biggest hitches on his career is not being able to, but we'll see how that develops, hopefully over the offseason. And yeah, not a good sign to have 1, 2, 3, 4, effectively 5 of your players that you had for the round in the top 10 trade outs. So that was not good. But anyway, that is the video there going through my, I guess, trade targets for round 18 of the AFL fantasy season. If you guys did enjoy, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload. If you're listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow before the State of Origin for the Supercoach trade targets, which will probably follow a similar trend, I would think. But I'll see you guys then. Bye, guys.